Before we begin, a brief invitation that serves the journey we are about to undertake. Subscribe to this channel so you can accompany the unfolding of these ideas, deepen your practice, and return to each new reflection with a community devoted to clarity and growth. Your subscription is more than a button. It is a commitment to pursue a wiser, steadier life. Join us now so that together, we can explore why we chase happiness so relentlessly and how we might finally learn to stop running and start living. We begin with a paradox that has haunted human experience for centuries. We pursue happiness with the intensity of a chase, yet it slips away as if it were designed to be elusive. The more we fixate on obtaining it, the more brittle it becomes. The more we grasp, the less we hold. The question is not only psychological, it is existential. Why do we reach for happiness in every direction? Through success, relationships, possessions, status, even self-improvement. And yet end our days often feeling that something essential has remained just out of reach? To answer, we must examine what we mean by happiness, how our minds and cultures frame it, and how the pursuit itself can transform into a trap. Happiness, to many, is a state of pleasurable feeling, warmth, lightness, ease, a sense that life is as it should be. But even this definition exposes a difficulty. Feelings fluctuate. They arise in response to physiology, circumstance, memory, and hope. If happiness is defined as an uninterrupted flow of pleasant emotion, then it is not only unavailable, it is incoherent. Biology resists it. Evolution did not design us to bask permanently in satisfaction. The nervous system is a sentinel, constantly scanning for change, contrast, and potential threats or opportunities. Pleasure habituates. What delighted on Monday is ordinary by Friday, and barely noticeable by the end of the month. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation, a tendency to return to a baseline of affect after positive or negative events. A raise, a new home, a social victory. The glow fades as the brain normalizes the new status. In the language of economics, marginal utility declines. In the language of common life, the thrill wears off. If happiness is not stable when built on external acquisition, why do we still run? Because the promise of happiness has been woven into our institutions and marketing. Entire industries are structured to stimulate desire, provide temporary relief, and trigger renewed wanting. Platforms and products are tuned to the attentional rhythms of the human animal. Novelty captures, scarcity excites, social comparison arouses, intermittent reward binds. You are invited, subtly or explicitly, to believe that one more achievement, one more experience, one more purchase will finally assemble the missing piece of your life. The shadows lengthen. You scroll and shop and plan. When the glow dims, you do not conclude that the strategy might be flawed. You assume you chose the wrong target and try again. There is another reason the chase continues. We confuse happiness with the absence of difficulty. We imagine a life insulated from loss, conflict, and uncertainty. But difficulty is not an error condition. It is the texture of living. Bodies age. Relationships are complicated. Projects falter. Economies swing. Weather shifts. If happiness requires a frictionless world, then it requires a world that does not exist. The expectation itself creates suffering. Reality does not match the story, and we feel betrayed. A more robust understanding of happiness reframes it not as the removal of all negatives, but as the cultivation of capacities, meaning virtue, connection, presence, that remain viable across conditions. Let us look closely at a day in which happiness seems elusive. You wake, check your device, encounter news that disturbs you, messages that pull you into obligations, images that trigger comparison. Your attention scatters before your feet touch the floor. Throughout the day, small annoyances accumulate. Delays, miscommunications, noise. You promise relief after work, a show, a treat, a purchase. Briefly, the agitation rests. Then it returns, often sharper. The pattern repeats. Where in such a day would a stable happiness hide? It cannot be found in the next notification or the next escape. It is more likely found in a different architecture of attention and intention. A morning that begins with silence rather than agitation. A practice of aligning tasks with values, a decision to speak truthfully and kindly, even under pressure. A deliberate noticing of ordinary beauty. A structured disconnection from stimulus when evening comes. These are not things you acquire. They are ways you inhabit time. Research supports this shift. Studies on attention show that our subjective well-being correlates strongly with whether our minds are present to what we are doing. Mind wandering, especially toward neutral or negative content, predicts lower happiness. Gratitude practices, writing down 3 specific things you are grateful for, contribute to increased well-being over weeks and months. not because they banish hardship, but because they recalibrate perception toward a fuller picture. Acts of altruism, even small ones, correlate with elevated mood. These findings do not announce a formula so much as they point toward a principle. Happiness emerges as a byproduct of engagement with what is meaningful and within your sphere of influence, not as a trophy taken by force. Another thread is identity. Many pursue happiness as proof of worth. If I am happy, I must be succeeding. If I feel good, I must be good. This confuses evaluation with experience. Worth is not something you earn from the world. It is something you protect by choosing to live according to conscience. When happiness is demanded as evidence, it becomes performative. You curate an image, online in conversation, of perpetual contentment. The performance isolates you. It becomes difficult to ask for help, to acknowledge pain, to admit confusion. The cost is heavy. Others can love only the mask, not the person behind it. True contentment becomes more distant. Consider also the arrival fallacy, a term used to describe the belief that when we reach a particular goal, we will find enduring happiness. Students imagine it after graduation, professionals after a promotion, artists after recognition, parents after milestones. When arrival comes, a quiet disappointment often follows. The calendar flips. Dishes still need washing. New challenges appear at the new altitude. The mind, hungry for a narrative that will redeem the effort, picks a new summit. There is nothing wrong with goals. They organize effort and give direction. The error is to subcontract happiness to the future. Doing so corrodes the present and burdens the future with a weight it cannot bear. This does not mean that external conditions are irrelevant. Poverty, injustice, ill health, and isolation harm well-being. It is essential to work for fairer structures that reduce unnecessary suffering. Yet even in improved conditions, the mind's habits persist. Two people in similar circumstances can have vastly different experiences depending on what they attend to, how they interpret events, and what values they prioritize. Happiness, understood as a stable, resilient well-being, entails both external decency and internal discipline. So why do we fail to find it? Because we look in places it does not live, and because we demand guarantees it cannot offer. We look outside for what must be built inside. Clarity of purpose, alignment of values and actions, and the capacity to transform pain into meaning. We want a life that confirms our preferences. We receive a life that challenges us to grow. We want a feeling that never ends. We are given moments that invite gratitude precisely because they end. Let us turn to practical ways of shifting the pursuit. First, redefine the aim. Instead of, I want to be happy, consider, I want to live in a way that is worthy, honest, just, courageous, and attentive. Let happiness, when it appears, be welcomed, not commanded. Second, structure your days around what you can control: effort, presence, kindness, craft. Choose one act daily that serves someone else with no expectation of return. This pulls you out of the tight orbit of self and into the wider field of connection. Third, practice appreciation deliberately. Not generic positivity, but specific notice. The texture of bread, the patience of a colleague, the shade under a tree. Specifics stabilize appreciation. Vagueness dissipates it. Fourth, create boundaries with systems that harvest your attention. Remove the device from the bedroom. Schedule blocks of deep work and blocks of true rest. Design friction against unhelpful habits and ease for helpful ones. Happiness is not only a feeling. It is a context you cultivate, a home you arrange for the mind. Fifth, accept the full range of feeling as part of a good life. Sadness in the face of loss is not a failure of happiness. It is a tribute to what mattered. Anxiety before a meaningful risk is not a defect. It is a sign that you care. When you stop pathologizing all discomfort, you stop fleeing your life. The story of a craftsman may help. She works with wood, shaping it into functional beauty. Some days the tool slips. Some boards warp. Some designs fail. Joy arises as she learns, adjusts, feels the grain yield to skill. If she measured happiness only by finished pieces, she would abandon the craft too soon. But she measures by engagement, by the feel of steady hands, by the quiet of attention, by the service of creating something that may outlast her. The finished pieces are a bonus. In this frame, you are the craft. Your days are the workshop. Happiness appears not as a prize, but as the warmth of doing what fits your nature and serves your world. It is worth bringing in data from longitudinal studies on well-being. Many report that beyond a certain threshold of income, enough to meet needs and afford modest comfort, additional wealth has diminishing returns for day-to-day emotional well-being. Purpose, relationships, health, and autonomy are stronger predictors. Autonomy means a sense that you have agency over your actions and time. Relationships provide both joy and resilience. Purpose organizes effort, making sacrifice sensible. Health gives capacity to enjoy and to act. When any of these pillars are neglected in the chase for a single metric, money, status, acclaim, happiness evaporates even as success accumulates. Social comparison is another thief. The ancient impulse to measure one's standing within the tribe has been amplified by platforms that present curated highlights as if they were ordinary life. The mind, exposed to hundreds of polished windows a day, writes a story. Everyone else is happier. This story is false, but it can feel true with enough repetition. Counter it by reducing exposure, by curating what you consume toward learning rather than comparison, and by remembering that the backstage of your life cannot be fairly compared to someone else's stage performance. Better yet, direct energy toward your own stage, not for applause, but for practice. One might ask, if happiness is unreliable as a goal, is it not defeatist to stop seeking it? No, it is liberating. You switch from chasing a mirage to cultivating a garden. A garden is never finished, always imperfect, sometimes ravaged by weather, often beautiful in ways you did not plan. You learn cycles, patience, and gratitude for growth small and large. The garden gives vegetables and flowers. You do not demand that it give you constant fireworks. Happiness in this analogy is fragrance and taste. Virtue is soil and seed. Attention is water. Community is sunlight. Without soil, water, and light, the fragrance fades. With them, fragrance returns and surprises you. To transform the chase, consider adopting a daily cadence that supports a different outcome. In the morning, ask 3 questions. What matters today? Who can I help? And how will I protect my attention? Write brief answers. During the day, practice one-pointedness. When you speak, just speak. When you eat, just eat. When you walk, just walk. Each act becomes richer. Your mind spends less energy shifting contexts. In the evening, review. What did I do that aligned with my values? What did I learn? What will I adjust tomorrow? Close with gratitude for something small and something difficult. The small because it nourishes joy. The difficult because it grows strength. Notice also the role of narrative. Humans do not live by data alone. We live by stories. If your story is, I will be happy when, then the present is antechamber, not home. Rewrite the story. I will live today as if meaning were available here, and I will act accordingly. Then measure success by adherence to this story. When sadness visits, it does not mean the story is broken. It means the story is honest. You are a creature capable of joy and sorrow, of endurance and renewal. Relationships deserve special attention. Much of our happiness is social. We seek to be seen, understood, valued. Yet the chase can infiltrate even love. We look for relationships to deliver constant validation and ease, and we exit when the first real conflict appears. A wiser approach treats relationships as places to practice qualities that foster shared flourishing. Listening, patience, straightforward communication, forgiveness. Conflict is not necessarily a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that 2 real people with different histories are trying to build something together. The presence of goodwill and the ability to repair matter more than the absence of tension. Happiness within relationships often follows from the commitment to these practices. Let us address grief because it is a part of every life, and avoidance of it is one reason happiness remains distant. When we pretend that loss can be avoided, we close ourselves to deep love and authentic engagement. The cost of love is the risk of grief. The consolation is that grief testifies to love's value. To grieve well is to allow sadness without drowning in it. To accept support, to remember, to honor, to continue. Paradoxically, those who allow grief when it comes also report a fuller return to lightness later. Those who repress it often feel a lingering numbness that steals more days than sorrow ever would. Happiness, then, is not the annihilation of grief, but the capacity to experience it and to find beyond it meaning and renewed gratitude. Consider your work. If it is a field for competition only, happiness will always be in someone else's hands. If it is a field for contribution, your hands find work that satisfies even on tough days. Contribution does not require world fame. It requires usefulness in your sphere. A teacher who cares for 30 students with diligence is contributing profoundly. A technician who ensures a system runs safely contributes. A parent who shows up. A neighbor who notices. A leader who protects the vulnerable. These roles turn effort into significance. When you align effort with contribution, happiness walks beside you more often. Language shapes feeling. Replace I must be happy with I will be responsible for what I can influence and receptive to what I cannot. Replace I deserve constant ease with I can endure difficulty in service of what matters. Replace why am I not happy yet with what simple honorable action can I take in the next hour? These shifts do not deny desire. They discipline it. They free you from a rude master. The insistence that life conform to your preferences without remainder. It is important to acknowledge that not all unhappiness is philosophical. There are seasons when clinical depression or anxiety require professional care. Seeking help is an act of courage, not an admission of weakness. Therapy, medication when appropriate, social support, and healthy routines can restore the ground on which practices like gratitude and service can stand. The pursuit of happiness becomes wiser when it includes the humility to ask for help. Let us include embodiment. The body is the medium through which all experience occurs. Sleep deprivation, sedentary days, erratic nutrition, these dull the mind and darken mood. A brisk walk can shift perspective. Exposure to sunlight stabilizes circadian rhythms. Consistent sleep provides a buffer against emotional storms. This is not reductionism. It is respect for the conditions that allow mental clarity and emotional resilience. Happiness, as an emergent property of a well-lived day, depends in part on honoring the body's needs. One more pattern keeps happiness at a distance. Self-absorption disguised as self-discovery. There is a crucial difference between reflective self-knowledge and endless self-preoccupation. Reflection asks, how can I correct my course and be of better use? Preoccupation asks, why am I not feeling how I want to feel? And how can the world change to make it so? The first opens outward, the second spirals inward. A practical test. After a period of introspection, do you feel more available to others and more aligned with action, or more entangled in rumination? Choose practices that lead you back into life. The path is not quick. It is worthy. The search for happiness often fails because it is engineered like a hunt for prey. Set a target, close the distance, capture, consume. But happiness is not prey. It is more like a climate, affected by geography, season, and care, than like a trophy. You influence it through stewardship. When stewardship replaces conquest, the methods change. You become curious rather than grasping, patient rather than frantic, enduring rather than oscillating wildly between elation and despair. Begin with attention. Where attention goes, life flows. Most of us lease our attention to the loudest bidder. If your attention is scattered, your experience fractures. A fractured experience cannot sustain happiness because it cannot register continuity. Practice bringing the mind back, again and again, to one thing. This is not esoteric. It is practical. You are speaking to someone, be there. You are writing, be there. You are washing dishes, be there. Each act of presence strengthens the muscle that allows you to experience satisfaction from depth rather than from constant novelty. Next, address desire. Desire is not the enemy. It is a compass, but it can be poorly calibrated. Unexamined desire chases whatever glitters. Examined desire aligns with values, health, learning, love, service, craftsmanship. Ask of your desires, what do you aim to produce in me? If the answer is more craving, let it pass. If the answer is strength, clarity, generosity, feed it. This sorting reduces self-betrayal. The painful sense that even when you get what you wanted, you have moved further from who you wish to be. The role of meaning cannot be overstated. Viktor Frankl observed that those who could locate meaning, even in suffering, retained a kind of inner freedom that circumstances could not extinguish. Meaning does not eliminate pain, but it transforms it from pure consumption into contribution. A parent wakes in the night to tend a child. A caregiver attends to an ill relative. A researcher endures long hours to solve a problem that might help many. Their happiness is not constant bliss. It is a quiet conviction that their days are being used well. Seek meaning not in abstraction, but in concrete commitments. A person you will care for faithfully. A craft you will practice diligently. A cause you will serve consistently. Let us explore a recurring illusion. The belief that happiness is a stable state located just one solution away. If I could fix this one thing, I would be fine. There is truth here. Resolving a dysfunctional situation brings relief, but life immediately presents a new frontier. The illusion persists because it relies on a narrow frame. Focusing on one tension obscures the complex web of variables that shape our mood. A wiser shift is from single-solution thinking to systems thinking. Ask, what are the recurring patterns that produce dissatisfaction? Perhaps it is chronic overcommitment, insufficient recovery, porous boundaries, or a mismatch between your skills and your role. Adjust systems, fewer commitments chosen more carefully. Scheduled recovery, firmer boundaries. Incremental job crafting to align tasks with strengths. Systems change yields compounding returns. Examine honesty. Dishonesty, even subtle, corrodes well-being. pretending to feel differently than you do, exaggerating success, concealing mistakes, flattering, gossiping. All of these relieve pressure in the moment and degrade trust over time. Trust is the foundation of relationships, and relationships are the foundation of happiness. Commit to telling the truth kindly. If a truth will harm unnecessarily, adjust timing and tone. Do not distort the content. When you make a mistake, acknowledge it promptly and repair what you can. Paradoxically, this humility stabilizes self-respect, and stable self-respect supports a durable form of happiness. Train your relationship with time. Many of us dwell in the past with regret or in the future with worry, neglecting the present where action is possible and life is actually lived. The past is a teacher, not a prison. The future is a project, not a panic. Create rituals that bring you back. The breath, a bell, a phrase like, just this. Use calendars and lists to honor commitments, but do not let them colonize every minute. Leave white space. Happiness requires room to breathe. Rehearse contentment. Contentment is not stagnation. It is the ability to say enough at appropriate thresholds. You can maintain ambition and contentment simultaneously by differentiating domains. Be ambitious in service and craft. Be content in consumption and status. You may pursue excellence in your work while living simply. This balance immunizes you against the traps of envy and conspicuous display. When you are content with enough, you can celebrate others' successes without feeling diminished. And celebration is a form of happiness that multiplies rather than divides. Confront fear with clarity. Fear, left undefined, swells to occupy the horizon. Name it specifically: fear of rejection, of failure, of insignificance, of loss. Then engage with it through exposure in small steps. Ask for feedback. Ship a draft. Volunteer for a visible task. Make a call you have delayed. Each act says to the nervous system, we can survive this. Confidence accrues. Happiness is not the absence of fear. It is the growth of courage and competence in its presence. Protect wonder. Wonder is an antidote to cynicism and a wellspring of quiet joy. It dwells in art, nature, science, history, and the ordinary seen clearly. Take yourself to places where wonder is likely. A night sky free of city glare. A concert that opens your chest. A museum that connects you to centuries. A library where ideas live. Learn to see familiar spaces anew. The geometry of shadows on your wall. The choreography of birds. The engineering of a bridge you cross daily. Wonder expands the frame, making petty irritations smaller and genuine gratitude easier. Build friendships that sustain you. Not all relationships contribute equally to well-being. Seek those who call you to your best self, who celebrate your victories without envy, and stand near your losses without fear. Be that person for others. Schedule time for conversation without agenda, for shared work or sport, for laughter that arises not from mockery, but from recognition. Loneliness is a modern epidemic. Counter it deliberately. Happiness is social even for introverts. It is not a crowd but a circle. Address money with wisdom. Financial stress erodes happiness. Financial excess, pursued without purpose, can do the same. Learn to budget, to save, to give. Align spending with values. Invest in experiences, learning, and generosity more than in status displays. The research suggests that spending on others often produces more sustained satisfaction than equivalent spending on oneself. Freedom from debt, an emergency fund, and honest conversations about money in relationships remove chronic background noise that makes joy harder to hear. Integrate spirituality or philosophy as your conscience leads. A sense of belonging to something larger than the self, whether framed religiously, philosophically, or poetically, anchors life. Practices like prayer, meditation, communal rituals, or simple daily contemplation can ground and orient. They remind you that your story is both precious and not the entire story. This dilutes despair and inflates gratitude. Keep learning. Mastery produces a durable form of pleasure known as flow, a state of deep engagement when challenge and skill are well matched. Pick domains that matter to you and stretch into them regularly. Learning counters the stagnation that masquerades as comfort and later reveals itself as restlessness. The mind, fed with worthy material and tested with real problems, generates satisfaction from within. Shift metrics. Instead of asking, was I happy today? Ask, did I act in alignment with my values? Did I strengthen a relationship? Did I take care of my body? Did I learn something? Did I help someone? If the answer to most of these is yes, happiness is more likely to visit. And when it does not, you still lived a good day. This reduces the tyranny of mood as the sole judge of a life. Let us explore a counterintuitive idea. Stop trying to feel better. Try to get better at feeling. The first seeks to manipulate mood. The second seeks to increase capacity. Getting better at feeling involves allowing emotions to arise, labeling them, understanding their sources, and choosing skillful responses. It includes the capacity to sit with discomfort without impulsive reaction, to savor joy without clinging, to transform anger into assertiveness or protection rather than aggression, to let sadness soften you without dissolving you. This emotional agility contributes to well-being far more than the brittle pursuit of constant positivity. Bring craftsmanship to ordinary tasks. A sink of dishes can be resented or approached as an opportunity to practice care. Warm water, clean surfaces, a gift to your future self or those you live with. A commute can be a roving classroom through audiobooks or a quiet time for reflection. A meeting can be an arena for clarity and kindness rather than competition. When you practice craftsmanship in small things, you generate quiet pride and reduce the number of moments you wish to escape. Use setbacks as material. When a plan fails, a relationship strains, a body falters, let the pain speak and then translate it into adjustments. What did this reveal about my assumptions? About my limits? About what matters? The alternative, resentment, without learning, locks you into a past that cannot change and steals a future that could. Happiness grows in the soil of lessons integrated, not in the fantasy of a life without mistakes. Take breaks from stimulation. Brains saturated with noise lose sensitivity to subtle pleasures. A practice of periodic silence, even 10 minutes a day, and occasional longer retreats from screens, resets thresholds. After quiet, the ordinary regains color. Tea tastes richer. Conversation lands deeper. Music moves more. Happiness becomes less costly, less dependent on ever louder inputs. Care for the place you live. Order is not an aesthetic fetish. It is a support for peace. A tidy room, a clean kitchen, a made bed, these are not trivial. They signal respect for the life you are building. They reduce decision fatigue and visual friction. The space that holds you shapes how you hold yourself. Happiness does not require luxury. It benefits from attentiveness. Reject contempt. Contempt toward others or toward yourself poisons the well. It feels powerful briefly, and then isolates and hardens. Replace contempt with curiosity and boundaries. Curiosity asks, what might explain this behavior? Boundaries say, I will not allow this behavior to harm me. Toward yourself, replace contempt with accountability and encouragement. You are more likely to grow when addressed with firm kindness than with scorn. Practice generosity. Give time, attention, resources. Notice when someone is overlooked and bring them in. Share knowledge, offer a meal, write a note of thanks. Generosity shifts the center of gravity from self to shared life. It creates connections that are mutually nourishing. Happiness, arriving as a witness, often chooses generous homes to linger in. Attend to rituals. Humans thrive on meaningful repetition. A weekly dinner with friends, a monthly walk in a particular place, a seasonal tradition, a daily reading, these become anchors that outlast mood swings and crises. Rituals tell your nervous system, there is continuity here. You are safe. Life has shape. From that safety, happiness grows. Invite accountability. Tell someone you trust about the life you are trying to live. Share your practices and your pitfalls. Ask them to ask you how you are doing and to tell you when you drift. Isolation breeds self-deception. Accountability, received humbly, keeps you honest and frees you from carrying everything alone. Respect limits. You cannot be everything to everyone, nor do everything at once. Saying no at the right time is a service to your yes. Overextension produces resentment and drains joy. Choose fewer commitments and keep them with excellence. The happiness that comes from integrity, doing what you said you would do, is deeper than the brief thrill of being admired for saying yes. Let go, periodically, of the project of self. Engage in activities that dissolve the sense of separate self. Immersion in nature, music, prayer, service, creative work. These experiences remind you that you are part of a larger fabric. They relieve the pressure of constant self-monitoring. In that release, a quiet happiness can appear, not because you possessed it, but because you stopped insisting. Consider mortality with tenderness. The time you have is finite. This is not meant to depress you, but to clarify you. When you remember that an ordinary Tuesday is one fewer Tuesday you will ever live, you pay better attention. You choose words more carefully. You forgive faster. You linger over beauty. You stop postponing conversations and acts of love. The awareness of mortality is a tonic that sharpens appreciation and urgency for what matters most. Finally, translate insight into immediate action. Write down one practice you will adopt this week to shift from chasing happiness to cultivating well-being. Perhaps it is a morning pause before screens, a daily act of service, a gratitude note, a walk at lunch, a rule for honest speech, or a weekly ritual with a friend. Put it on your calendar. Tell someone. Begin today. You will still feel the pull of the chase. Culture and biology have momentum. But now you are not a passive passenger. You have a map and a method. When you notice the old story, I will be happy when, smile at it, and return to the present task done with care, to the person before you treated with respect, to the body you inhabit tended with kindness, to the values you chose honored with action. Over time, the distance between you and the life you hope to live narrows, not because everything becomes easy, but because you become reliable. Happiness will visit at unexpected hours, and when it leaves, you will not feel abandoned. The meaning you have cultivated remains. The relationships you have nurtured hold. The skills you have practiced serve. The character you have strengthened stands. May your search shift from grasping to growing, from chasing to choosing. May you find again and again that happiness is not a finish line, but a companion that joins those who walk with integrity, gratitude, and love. And when you forget, as everyone does, may you return quickly, patiently, to the simple, honorable acts that make a life not only bearable, but beautiful.